How you doing? I'm Matt Tanner, cycling coach for Cinch Cycling, and today we're going to review a practice time trial simulation with one of my athletes, David Clark. Today we'll be practicing surfing the terrain, which is a cinch technique we use to gain additional speed as we crest over hills and accelerate down them, and then try to hold that speed with a little bit lower cadence. So we'll be looking for Dave to do some surfing the terrain in this video. And this video was shot April 3rd, 2021 with pretty cold temperatures. It was around 30 degrees, south-southwest wind at 20 miles an hour. And as you can see, Dave was on a disc 808 combo. So managing the crosswinds, the headwinds on the TT bike with that wheel setup was rather challenging and maybe not ideal conditions for a disc wheel. One of the things you should know about the video we're going to watch today is during the surfing the terrain technique, the goal is to hold a power floor at your low threshold during the ride. And then as you go over the crest of a hill or start a downhill, you accelerate by raising your cadence and raising the power. And we'll go above your threshold for a short amount of time, and then we'll settle back in at low threshold with a lower cadence to maintain that speed. So it's kind of like riding a roller coaster, and you accelerate down the hill and then you keep that speed going as you hit the next piece of terrain. In this video, Dave's okayed me to share his power training zones, and his low threshold is at 288 watts. So when you look at the power that he's trying to hold throughout the race or through the practice race, look for the 288 watt floor as his low threshold zone. And then as we go over the surfs, he'll go up somewhere 360, 380 watts to do accelerations. So keep an eye on the gauges as we watch the video. So right out the gate here, you can see our TT Games course starts on a pretty good downhill, and there's a real good opportunity to grab a lot of speed at the start of the race, and it's kind of one of the secrets that I've learned on this course for having a really fast time. If Dave were in the aero position here, his speed would probably have been up above 35, probably near 40 miles an hour. I've seen those numbers before, and going that fast for even a short amount of time is a huge time advantage on the overall time for your race. Going up the hill, you can see Dave's power is quite high. It's well above his power floor, but we are so early into the race, he's not going to go over his threshold long enough to go into the red to where he can't recover when he comes back down to his power floor. So the first few moments of a time trial, typically you want to get up to speed as fast as you can. Then you will want to get in the aero position as fast as you can, and then maintain and hold that speed until you're up to your maximal sustainable speed. Then you need to settle into your low threshold and begin surfing the terrain. So I'm okay with what we see here. Dave, obviously putting out some big watts going up the hill. If you watch the timer on the video, you can see he's not even at 2 minutes yet as he's going up this beginning hill, and then he starts to settle into closer to a low threshold range where he can clear lactate, recover in that zone, and the first 2 minutes of the race aren't going to impact him negatively. They're just going to actually make his speed faster for the overall time. Here you can see at about 3 minutes 15 seconds, I move ahead and clear the intersection for Dave. If you're in a practice race situation and have the opportunity to have somebody spot with you, that's a really good way to help keep it safe while enabling the person on the TT bike to stay in an aero position. And obviously requires a lot of trust in each other. Dave and I have been riding for a number of years, so with each other, so that wasn't an issue at all, and it enabled Dave to stay a little bit faster through the course and in an aero position. If you couldn't tell, Indiana is very flat. There's not a lot of opportunities that you can see in the video to surf the terrain at this point. This is a really flat and fast section of the course. Unfortunately today it was a head crosswind coming from the left side of the road, so you'll see Dave kind of get pushed over to where I'm drafting him on the right. But there are lots of little dips in the road and little bumps that you can take advantage of in a surf situation, and we'll see those as we get further down the road. But this section is just a long, brutal grind when it's a headwind cross headwind kind of day like it was when we did the practice race. So keep watching. Here you can see again, we probably need to edit the video, but we had a two-way stop sign where our direction did not need to stop, and the cars crossing the intersection did, and one took off in front of us, and I gave him a nice friendly wave and thanked him for not hitting Dave. So I hadn't ridden with Dave while he's been on his TT bike before, but I noticed on this ride a lot of shifting in the saddle. It looks like he's really uncomfortable. Even when he's doing the appropriate floor watts in the 288 range. We're addressing his position now, and it's an ongoing thing for most anybody that does time trials. You're always trying to find the most aero, most powerful position possible to create the most speed. And I'm noticing, you know, obviously Dave's shifting around the saddle a lot, and every time he makes a little shift in the saddle, it scrubs a little bit of speed off because it impacts his cadence and his power. His the torque on the pedals gets, you know, let up, and obviously that impacts the power, and it totally disrupts his cadence. And then you can see him sometimes go to the side handlebars because he's not comfortable. Rule number one in time trialing is always be in the aero position. I think there's a technical study that if you're below 17 miles an hour or something, it's not as much of an impact. But for me, always be in the aero bars unless you need to grab the brakes or take a turn that's not safe. So we're going to continue working on that with Dave. He's already made some adjustments since this video to his saddle height, and we're going to try to bring his bars up, and we have a whole list of fit ideas that we're going to work through together on his fit on the bike. Here we're approaching our first real turn in the course. In a race situation, again, Dave wouldn't sit up this early. We were really just practicing technique, getting time on the TT bike. But in a race situation, you want to be arrow all the way into the turn. Dave takes a pretty good line through the turn, apexes it well, and stays within the yellow lines for roads that are open to cars. And then he gets right back up to speed, good acceleration out of the corner, back into the arrow position, and back on his way. Down the road, I can see a bump, a little hill, and there's going to be an opportunity to surf. First, Dave's got to navigate through some potholes here and some crazy cracks in the road, which he does a good job of. And his speed's really kicking up now. This is a tailwind section, cross tailwind, again coming from the left side of Dave as the wind was out of the southwest. One thing we notice when you're riding with the tailwind, it's always fun to go fast, and it feels easier to go fast when you're being pushed along. It is easier. So we watch Dave's power floor. Right now he's holding it pretty good, 288, 300 in that range. He's going 29 miles an hour. We're going up the hill. He increases his power too soon. We should have accelerated here, and his power actually comes down the hill. So he's kind of just maintaining the same speed by putting in effort going up the hill, when what we would rather see is the power floor up the hill and then accelerating well over the power floor down it. And now you can see the power floor drops even more. We're down at 200 watts, bursting to get it back up. But in general, the power floor just keeps dropping. And it could be two things, but in my mind, the likely thing is our mind sees us and we're going 30, 31 miles an hour. It feels really fast. You're in an arrow position. You can't look down the road as far as you would on a road bike. You feel kind of out of control. And on a TT bike, that's a normal feeling that everybody experiences that races competitively on a TT. What you need to do is learn to overcome that fear of going faster and maintain that power floor and do what I say is take the speed. So if the wind is giving you extra speed, that doesn't mean you let your power up and recover. You keep your power floor where it's at. You continue to surf the terrain, accelerate over the top of hills, and build even more speed. I can guarantee if this was a real race, there would be somebody in the race that would take total advantage of this tailwind section, keep their low threshold zone consistent, and they would probably be doing 35, 36 miles an hour versus 30 miles an hour like you see Dave doing. So tailwinds, headwinds are critical in time trials. That's where you make and lose a lot of time. So keep watching. We'll see a couple more surf opportunities come up. Approaching the second turn in the course, hard right-hand corn. Dave takes it extra wide, a little garbage in the apex of the turn, and then he does a really good job of mashing the pedals back up to speed. You see 400, almost 500 watts. He's out of the saddle, building the speed back up. This is a cross tailwind here. The wind's hitting him out of the right now, so I'm drafting on the left side, trying to keep up with him as he's flying down the road. He's got his power floor back up. I believe that when he dropped the power floor with the tailwind, it was because he was at a high speed and felt like he was going fast enough. And now that there's a sort of a cross tailwind, the power needs to be generated much higher to get back up to that 30-mile-an-hour range. So he's back, back in the power floor realm and even above it at sometimes. Now we're doing 28 miles an hour. Power floor is a little bit low, but not terrible. It's coming back up to where it should be. Cadence looks good, 88 RPMs. Speed's great. So I really think, in the tailwind for Dave, I'm going to work with him on making sure that we keep the power floor consistent in those sections and taking the speed. Here again, we can see Dave shifting around, getting out of the aero bars, which is a big no-no. I think, like I said earlier, it's a fit issue that we need to address to get him comfortable in the aero position. Right through here, there's some really good opportunities for some surfs. You can kind of see the road start to angle up a little bit down the way. The wind's obviously catching some of those trees and surprising Dave and hitting him in the side, pushing him across the road. When the trees go away and the land opens up, the wind was really brisk. Really good job holding the floor here. Speed at 26 miles an hour. We've ridden this course quite a few times. We use it in the summer for Rollfast events once a month, and so I know the course really, really well. I know where all the little secret spots are to accelerate. And in the practice run here, I told Dave at this final right-hand turn, it's all in. I know from most days, if it's not an extreme headwind, it's going to be under 2 minutes from this big sweeper turn to the finish. And just like the start, we can go above our low threshold zone and really, essentially blow ourselves up right as we cross the finish line. So if you know your course well, if you know the distance, if you know how much time you have left in a TT, that's when you need to start understanding and knowing what your body's capable of doing for given periods of time. And if you've ridden the TT race properly, you should have energy left in the tank as you've held your low threshold floor where you can clear lactate, and gone above that when you can gain speed. You can see Dave here, he did a really good push out of the turn. His power came up. It's starting to fade now. I remember talking to him after the practice ride, and he was pretty cooked at the end. Obviously adrenaline and different things happen on race day, and sometimes you do superhuman things that you didn't know you could do, and you set new power records, and all those things are awesome, but that really wasn't the purpose of the practice we did on this day. So I was happy with his finale performance. Other than one thing you're going to see here, you can see I'm kind of ahead of him now, and maybe it's out of camera, you're wondering what's going on. Dave's not in the aero position, and you can see our speed is just way down, 18 miles an hour, 320 watts. This is the headwind section, and this is the most critical time to be in the aero position. It's like a double negative when you come out of the aero position and you're in a headwind. Now you can see his watts are back down to 45. He's going 21 miles an hour. So much faster, so much less power. It's uncomfortable. The finale of the race always hurts. You're always seeing cross-eyed. You're always trying to keep it in a straight line. You're all over the road. It's everything at the end of the race. And with less than I don't know, less than a minute to go, it's time to sprint. So I'm yelling at Dave, go, 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 go. Car passes us nicely. And you can see Dave's power keeps, fluctuating up. Um, then he has to return a little bit to reality, but I know the course. I know that barn up on the right is our finish, and it's everything you have right now. Great job, Dave. Really happy with your effort. And thank you for allowing me to be your coach with Cinch Cycling. And look forward to all of the awesome rides you're going to have this summer, and watching you race a lot of TTs around the region, and wishing you all the best. Thanks again, man. If you'd like to learn more about my coaching services through Cinch Cycling, you can go to rollfast.us/coaching and learn all about the techniques we use and the process we use with the Ascend program. You can also see some of my success stories of how Tom Danielson and Cinch Cycling have helped me achieve my goals. And there's also a sign up for my top 5 favorite secrets to make you a badass in 2021. So check it all out. Have a good day, guys. Thanks for watching.